Hello, my name is Annie and I am going to be teaching you Shaping 101 today. Welcome to your pre-recorded Mani Masterclass. I have been involved with the Olive and June community since 2020 is when I got my first Mani system. In 2021, I started teaching like live Instagram tutorials with Olive and June, which was really fun. And shortly thereafter, I became an Olive and June ambassador and I started teaching Mani Master classes in 2024. So today we are going to shape these nails, and this is Shaping 101. So I'm going to show you all the ins and outs. So let's get to it. All right, firstly, there's a couple things you're going to need, and these come in your Olive and June Mani system, so you're all set. You've got your clipper. This is a straight edge clipper. We have our dual grit file, so this side is a little smoother. This side that says #OliveYourMani is a little more rough, and then you have your buffer. So these are the three things that you're gonna need to shape your nails. I currently have Snapdragon on my nails. This is a quick dry shade. Super cute. It's like an orangey red. But I'm not going to remove my polish because it's easier to see what the final shape of your nails is going to be if you shape with your old polish on. So I'm going to keep my polish on, and I'm going to show you 5 different shapes today. And while I go through those shapes, we'll just show you the basics, the shaping basics. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my clipper and I'm going to make my pinky nail. I'm gonna make this a square. We're gonna do 5 different shapes, like I said. So this one's going to be square. I'll do squoval on this nail, oval here, round, and then I'll do almond. So those are our 5 different shapes that we're gonna cover. But the first thing you're gonna do is take your clipper, and I like to start with one tiny clip in the center to sort of start to get to where I want my length to be. Now this one's going to be square, and since I'm kind of starting with a ovalish, roundish shape that's sort of grown out and in need of some maintenance, I'm gonna clip a little bit more because otherwise I'm not gonna be able to really make that a true square if I don't clip anymore. But you want to, whatever shape you're making, you want to make your clips small, because once you clip, you can't put it back. So you really want to just make those teeny tiny clips, and then you can stop and assess each time. So I'm making a clip, coming back and looking. Now I can see that it's a little slanted, so I need to clip on this side a little bit more. So my goal is to make my nail completely flat across the top. And we like to do 90% of the work with the clipper, and then that final 10% with the file. So next I'm going to take the file. I'm going to use the smoother side, and I'm just going to very, very gently file in one direction to smooth out what I just did and further refine the shape. Square is really one of the easiest shapes to achieve because it's just completely flat on the top. I can even just use the flatness of my file to kind of like use as a guide to know, like, is it completely flat or not. This shape probably takes the least bit of nuance, the least bit of like finessing. So there's our square. We've got pointy corners, flat top, and sometimes I even like to kind of just like scrape a little under, because sometimes your file will leave like little crusties, you can see. So then I'll just use the buffer to sort of like buff those little crusty bits away. And there we have it. There's our square. Now to achieve a squoval, you're gonna pretty much do the same steps. The only difference is I'm gonna take those corners and round them out a little bit more. So we'll do that on this nail. So I'm gonna just little baby clips in the center. I'm bringing my length down, kind of coming at the sides, and then one more in the center, maybe a couple more in the center to get it to where I want it, to make sure it's flat. And that's what's nice about this straight edge clipper. There are some clippers that have a curve to them, but then you're not really able to achieve this shape quite as easily when you have a curve. So next I'm going to take my file and I'm just going to smooth that out. And I'm not sawing, I'm only going in one direction. This way I make sure I'm not taking off any more than I want to. And I'm making sure that my nails are staying nice and healthy and strong. When you do like the sawing motion, that can sort of bring about some of that like peeling that some people get at the tips. So we don't want that. So now the difference here with my square, I kept my corners pointy, but now I'm gonna come in on the sides with my file. And I wanna show you another sort of just like mani maintenance thing that I like to do, and that's to take the rougher side of the file and kind of just really get in here at some of this like skin that's growing on the sides. And this will also sort of like make sure that your nail is growing in like this shape that we're creating as much as possible. So I'm taking my file and I'm sort of swiping away and doing like a little flick of the wrist to just round out that corner a little bit. Squoval, the shape, is like literally a combination of the word square and oval. So it's mostly a square just with rounded corners. Now, as I was just filing, we just brought up a little bit of that skin there, and then we can just file that away. Same thing, I'm going from one side and kind of just flicking it towards the center to make that a little bit more round. So there's our squoval. Flatter on the top, rounded on the sides. Square is pointier. Now, this one, I think I said I was gonna do round here, maybe oval? No, I think this one I said I was gonna be oval. We're already kind of oval, so I'm just going to do a little trim. So I'm gonna bring it down to be like the same length as these ones, but I'll make this a little bit more oval. That said, with oval and with almond, as you'll see when we get to the thumb, with oval, you do need a bit more length. So I'm not actually gonna bring it quite as short as those other ones, contradicting myself. But with oval, I'm gonna wanna take the clipper and sort of get into these corners here to make that taper. Now, sometimes you don't get it all the way and we can just kind of boop. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on this side, making sure it's a tiny clip because you don't wanna do too much. Once you clip too much, you can't put it back. And now I can see that this was a little more of an angle than this one. So I'm gonna clip right here. That's really the key, is like you clip, you stop, and you look. Kind of zoom out, look at it, flip it around, look at it from all angles. Now I just wanna round out that tip a little bit so that I'm getting that to a nice oval. So we just took off a little bit of length and then came in at the sides. I always kind of start in the center to like set my length first. And of course you can take off more as you go, but you always wanna do like a little bit at a time. It's almost like, you know, cutting your own bangs. Oh my gosh, don't do that. I have, but don't. Once you cut off too much, it's over. Obviously it grows and your nails grow. So if you make a mistake, it's okay. It will grow back, but you don't want to take off too much. So just little by little. And I'm doing the same thing here on the sides with my file, because especially with the oval shape, this is like one of our more tapered shapes. Getting in at the sides is going to be really important because you want it right from where the nail leaves the skin to start to get in that angle to make that tapered, elongated oval shape. So there's our oval. Pretty similar to where we were when we started, of course, but we trimmed it a bit and just refined the shape. That's the thing is, like, I usually will do an oval shape. Personally, that's my favorite shape. But as I start to grow out, my nail is growing this way, not this way. So that's where sometimes I gotta get in there and maintain it, do a little trim, do a little finessing. Now with this one, I'm gonna make this nail into a round shape. The difference between round and oval is that oval is more tapered. It's kind of like oval is in between round and almond. So I'm gonna trim right in the center, kind of just to bring my overall length down. And then I'm gonna clip on one side, look at it, clip on the other side, look at it again. And I don't want it to be like quite as narrow for a round shape. I want it to be like just perfectly round. So you can even see so far, this one has a little more of a taper to like a peak, and this one doesn't quite as much. I'm gonna bring that down just a little bit to make that more apparent. And then we take our file and smooth it out. It's kind of like round is on our way from oval to squoval in a way. It's like a little flatter, like a little like wider almost, if that makes sense. Ooh, that was a good one. This is like one of my favorite steps of shaping, is to take that rougher side of the file and just kind of get in on some of that skin. We could even say this is like a little bit of cuticle work in a way, because that's your skin wanting to sort of like grow onto the nail, but it's also part of our shaping process. I can kind of see right now that this has a nice curve to it. This almost has like a bit of a squoval-y side. So I want those two sides to match. This is where your little, having the eye for it is important. Being able to see, is it symmetrical? And that's where it's helpful to like stop and look at it at all angles, turn your finger around. I can even see when I turn it this way that I feel like one side is like a little longer than the other. So that's where stopping and looking at different angles can really help you to just kind of have different perspectives. So there's my round. Here we can really see the differences between these shapes. This is my squoval, much more flat. This one is similar, but we just have a little more roundedness up at the top. And then this one is more oval because we just have a lot more of that taper. It really is coming to more of a peak in the center. Now, last but not least, the almond can be kind of the hardest because you really want to like line up your peak in the right spot, and sometimes that can be hard to find. This is where having your old polish on can be really helpful to be able to visualize that. Now, if we look at like this thumb, for example, my nail bed, like my proximal nail fold, if I'm actually holding up my nail like completely perpendicular, I have like a little bit of a slant here, and like my finger is just like not it's a little like lopsided. I don't know if you can tell. I also have this little like notch, I don't know if you can see it in this nail. It's not gonna focus for me. But it's like almost this little like divot right here, which can sometimes make shaping a little tricky. But that's the beautiful thing about our hands and our nails, and is that they're all just so beautiful and unique. They're all like special little flowers. Okay, so I'm gonna take my clipper, and with almond, I'm gonna leave all of the length that I have. Almond, you need to have length. If you don't have enough length, you're not gonna be able to bring it to a peak because of where your skin meets the nail. That's called your hyponychium. And especially for me, mine is actually like past my fingertip just because I wear my nails long all the time, or not like long, but longer than my fingertip. So my skin there has grown a bit, so I really need to have the length in order to achieve the almond. So I'm not gonna actually bring that center clip like I did with the other ones because I wanna leave that length there. I'm gonna start with one clip over here on the side to bring it to the center. Then I'm gonna go to the other side. And I'm just gonna go alternating side by side so that we bring it to a peak and that it's kind of like matching on each side. Most of my work is being done with my clipper, and then I'll use my file to sort of finish it off. So there we go. I'm pretty happy with that almond. I really just did a couple clips here and there, but it's important to like stop and look and assess and watch to see how much of that nail you need to take off. Now, how pointy your almond is totally personal preference. If you're coming to an actual point, that's kind of more of a, what's called a stiletto shape. The almond has like kind of a softer peak, a softer point in the middle, like an actual almond. Similarly, like I did with my other nails, I'm doing that little bit of filing here in the crevices. That's probably the only place that I'll do like a little saw back and forth, but it is so incredibly gentle. You don't want to dig in there too hard because you could like actually cut yourself. Nobody wants that. Super duper gentle. And then just taking that softer side of the file, making sure everything is nice and smooth. I'm pretty pleased with that. So there you have it. We've got 5 different shapes that we just did. We used our clipper, we used our file, and I used my buffer just a little bit. I like to use the buffer kind of underneath to get some of those crusties away. Then your next step would be to take this polish off, do some cuticle work, and then paint. But since I'm not going to do that today, I'm just going to go ahead and hydrate. So I'm going to use, because that's the thing, after you shape your nails, you're a little dry and crusty. If you were going to go on to paint right now, you would not do this. But since I just did shaping and I'm not going to paint right now, we're just going to hydrate a little bit. I'm using Olive & June's cuticle oil just to hydrate, because sometimes I like to even do my shaping at a time where I'm not doing my mani. Like I might even do my shaping and maintenance on one day and then take my polish off and change my polish the next day to sort of like split it up. Listen, sometimes we're busy and we gotta break it up. Or I might like even shape at night, like right before bed. So then I'm just ready to paint the next day if you don't want to go to bed with wet polish, for example. Lots of options, of course. But there you go. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching. And you can find me over on Instagram at Annie's Manis. It's Annie with 2 E's. Annie's Manis with 1 E was already taken. So Annie's Manis, 2 E's. See you there.